Monday Night Football's on tap, and once again, for some reason, we have a doubleheader going today. But that means two games, a bigger slate, some similar showdown principles. We're doing what we always do on Mondays here. I'm going to look at the projections and the ownership projections from Stochastic, leader DFS site out there. Of course, we're going to optimize some lineups via the solver. We're going to sim some stuff out for your Stochastic. I'm going to hand build one as well. By the end of this video, you'll know 3 takeaways to build unique lineups on a doubleheader slate. And again, it's all about building unique lineups at the end of the day. Let's get into it, guys. And I see the comment from Eddie here. Yes, worst slate ever yesterday. I saw our pal Pete had a tough time. Of course, me, 50-yard Jaden Daniels run. So stoked. All the talk I've given about that being the game of games for Jaden Daniels, I felt like it was going to happen. And then rib injury. And then Marcus Mariota looks great. So honestly, the Panthers didn't pull their weight on that side either. So that was kind of the downer for me. But definitely a tough slate yesterday. We were really a kick in the dick too, because with it being my birthday, there was some numerology as well for me that felt pretty good around it. And with the fact, too, that, again, Jaden Daniels on my birthday, highest team total of the year, which, by the way, they cleared that team total pretty fucking easily as well, did the Commanders. I felt like everything was aligned for me to have, like, this is my slate. This is the one. So definitely a bit of a rug pull. Made a little bit of money back on the showdown slate. Only played a couple of lineups, but thankfully had a top 1,000 finisher. So felt okay about it. But honestly, the main slate, that was one of the more, it's all gambling. It's all gambling. You guys know that. One of the more tilting ones. I don't get so tilted about in-slate gambling. And terrible for my best ball exposures, too. This not having Jaden put up more than 5 points. Brutal one for me, but appreciate that. That was my B-day. I'm homeless. Yes, I'm broke. Birthday was fine. Besides that, Alex did all the work yesterday. Saturday was a nice day for us. We went to a beer park. Luca got to run around. He played with a little girl. He also, this little girl was, so into playing with him, another 2.5-year-old. And he basically, ignored her. Then she left, and he's like, "Where's Taylor?" I'm like, dude, you are so your dad in this one respect. But anyway, that was it. But it was a good birthday. I appreciate that. Yeah, birthday weekend here. We're now back on the grind. Lots coming up this week, too. NBA content coming out for me, including deeper dive on Stochastic coming up Wednesday and Thursday, as well as an NFL live before lock for the showdown I'll be doing for Stochastic on Thursday as well. So you'll get a lot from me this week, in addition to our usual run of splash play content, of course. Let's get into it, guys. Projections up top here. And I appreciate Justin asking about my birthday, too, and all the well wishes from you guys. Thank you for that. Lamar, top projected player for this 2-game slate today, 22.9 projection. J.K. Dobbins, 20.3. And I did take a quick little peek at the ownership before the show. You are going to be alarmed to see how much J.K. Dobbins ownership is going to go today. Of course, the only player that people are going to trust the Chargers, you have Quentin Johnson expected to be out. You have not the people who trust him, but it's another player that can score touchdowns. You have Hayden Hurst expected to be out. So the offense consolidating for J.K. Dobbins. I would also say that probably makes a Ladd McConkey down here a little bit more appealing, but Dobbins, top projected player, probably going to make it in every lineup because that value metric, 3.2x value, is insane for a 2-game slate. Baker Mayfield, number 3, would think that he'll be the pivot point to Lamar Jackson. We'll see with that value and that salary. He might come in an optimizer a little bit more. Kyler Murray at number 4, 18.3 projection, and Chris Godwin, a 2.4x projection for him, 17.8 fantasy points. So decent value on Chris Godwin. Mike Evans, a little bit banged up, certainly a pivot point with about 4 points less in projection. His role has not been as good, certainly more of a touchdown hound, but Chris Godwin going to be a popular play today. Top values overall, according to Stochastic data, J.K. Dobbins, as I mentioned, that is an insane projection at that salary, 3.2x value, so he's going to get in everywhere. I think it's hard to fade him as well. The workload's been pretty good, talking over 20 touches the last few games, 19 inside touches and 10 touches on the year, 2.2 of which are inside the red zone, 0.8 inside the 10-yard line, which frankly could be a little bit better. If you're not going to play Dobbins, you probably want to consider Kamani Vidal, but I guess you could also just fade him entirely, go to James Conner, play a different game script. But I think the game of the slate, the name of the slate is going to be, how do I get different with J.K. Dobbins, given the fact it's going to come up everywhere? Because it seems pretty obvious. Will Disley, again, consolidating tight end touches. He's your number 2 value at $2,800, an 8.1 projection for him. AK salary on Lamar, he's still your number 3 value, 2.9x value with that 22.9 fantasy point projection. Kyler Murray, a $6,500 salary, 2.8x value, 18.3 projection. And Baker Mayfield, $6,800. You have Cade Otton as a value pivot point for Will Disley. You have Herbert, okay value, cheapest QB on the slate. Boy, tough scene for Justin Herbert. It makes sense, but boy, Justin Herbert, how the mighty have fallen. Ravens D, those are your values right now. Thank you for that, Red Spike. I appreciate it. I'm sure it's been all downhill since 30, to be honest. But hey, you have a kid or whatever. That's the one thing I have for myself. Is like, yeah, I've lost pets. Yeah, I had to shut down a startup this year. Football Outsider is still fucking me. Has not gone away in terms of how it affected my overall outlay on things. But when you have a kid and a wife, it's like, I at least didn't fuck it all up. if you're entirely alone and you're going through it, that's the tough part. Not that, for all you guys who are alone out there, you're never really alone here on Splash Play. Top owned players here, of course, according to Stochastic, 15% off Stochastic. Link in the description. That does include their NBA deals they have going as well. So if you want to pair those things up, feel free to do it. But if you want NFL data, it's the only discount they have going right now at Stochastic. So check it out. Link in the description or use the promo code SPLASH at Stochastic.com for any of the data or Sims tools. You got J.K. Dobbins, 77% projected ownership. And frankly, it might be a little bit light based on that projection. Feels like 80% wouldn't be crazy. I think people will still fade him a little bit, though. That's basically it. Pushing 50 at 4. Jesus, man, that's too many fucking kids. Talking to the same little girl's dad, and they have a second kid. And like everybody now who's got a kid around our age, they have the second kid who's like under a year or so. We're like, no, I know 2 is supposed to still be okay because you can still play man-on-man defense. Everybody always told me that 3 kids is where the world starts to change because the world's not meant for 5. The world's meant for 4. For me, the world's meant for fucking 3, man. I don't. 1 kid takes up enough time and mental bandwidth. Chris Godwin, your number 2 chalk player on the slate, 60% ownership rounded up for him. Zay Flowers, number 3, 52%. The matchup going against the Bucs, quietly one of the softer ones in the league, but only a 0.01 EPA per drop. I actually thought that'd be worse. 0.01 EPA per drop back allowed by the Tampa Bay defense. 0.01 EPA per pass. They played down to, like, good pass game seems like they played down to. So I certainly have no issue with Zay Flowers here, but him being that chalky, a little bit of a surprise. Workload was really good against the Commanders last week, so maybe not. Tampa Bay is zone-heavy team. They play zone almost 70% of the time. Zay Flowers less effective against zone than man. Not that that's everything, but I think you pivot away from Zay here at that much ownership. Derrick Henry at number 4. He's a man to thumbnail. It's hard for me to expect Derrick Henry to not score a touchdown today. His workload as well in the red zone being one of the better roles in football. 3 intended red zone touches a game, 2.5 which is at a 10-yard line. So it's easy for him to score 2 touchdowns in a game. I feel like in this game script, and I said this last week too, and it didn't happen. Basically, if Baltimore takes control early, you're not going to see Justice Hill as much because they're going to run the ball, try to keep the ball away from Baker Mayfield, knowing that theoretically can create some pass game production against them. It's basically the same formula they had last week against the Commanders. So I think if Baltimore gets off to a quick run, you don't see Justice Hill. If you see Tampa Bay get off to a quick start, let's say one of the RBs punches one in, Chris Godwin gets going, Mike Evans gets going downfield outside, that's probably where you see Justice Hill come in more. So I would say a little bit of a risk point, a little bit of a guess point as well, because that's really, early scoring is one of those things to me where, like, getting the results over the course of a game, I think most of us are pretty good at that. I would say I in particular feel pretty confident in my ability to do that. Getting things right in the start of a game and how that predicts how the game flow goes, that's sort of the tough part. And I do think for Baltimore, there's like a real, again, I always say fulcrum point. There's a real point here where things can bend a certain way. And if Bucs score first, I think Derrick Henry, then we see them come back with Justice Hill a little bit more. Also, too, if the Bucs put him in like 3rd and long situations, you just see more Justice Hill naturally. So it just depends on what's given up here. But I would guess, based on the fact that Tampa Bay, plus EPA defense of the run game and the pass game, are really weak against the run game as well. A 0.07 EPA per rush given up. If I had to guess, I think it's more of a Derrick Henry spot, not where they're just kind of ahead of schedule for the most part. Certainly can be, can go the other way if Tampa Bay just scores on offense, but I think it would be a Henry spot. So him being the number 4 owned player right now, I think that feels about right. He should be in about half your lineups, I think, no matter whether you like him as a player or not. I think he probably should be in about half your lineups. Just it's too easy for him to get there, even at the DK salary. Ladd McConkey, thought he'd be lesser owned, but 48% ownership for him, a $4,900 salary. Guy's been playing well for the most part in terms of earning targets on the year. Ladd McConkey, 29% target per out run rate for comparison's sake. Josh Palmer's at 16%. Simi Fajoko's at 17%. Will Dissly's at 33%. So he actually might not be the worst chalk in the world, even though don't expect to get a ton of targets here. He should run more routes without Hayden Hurst. So honestly, if you're gonna go against the Dobbins chalk, I would think that going to a stack of Chargers is one way to do it. Not the most fun way to do it, but it is a way to do it. Lower owned guys, James Conner outside the top 5, Lamar outside the top 5, but Lamar going to be at 42% of lineup. So for comparison's sake, Baker Mayfield 26. How low are we going for everybody else? Kyler at 21. and Herbert at 12. So, boy, if Herbert were to somehow win the slate, you were talking about being on an island with only 10% of the field or so, compared to 4x that for Lamar, 2.5x that for Baker Mayfield. It's pretty tough. The Chark or Rice in your pool. Who's my favorite zero? I'm not there yet. Honestly, getting to those guys would be pretty thin. It's still mostly, I think, McConkey, Palmer, Fehoko ahead of them. Let me see the snap counts. Fehoko, 40 snaps last week. Chark has not played yet this year, right? So that won't help. Brendan Rice. Shit, where'd he go? There's Rashid. I don't have Brendan Rice in my snap count thing. I think it would still mostly be McConkey or Josh Palmer, really. And then you could play those guys as one-offs, but I think you're getting a little thin if you go too far down. Chark could get there, I guess, because he was technically the starter to start the year, and then they kind of took him out. He got banged up. They started playing Brendan Rice there, and then they moved away from him, bumped up Quentin Johnson to the first team. So it's possible Chark could get there, but I'm not confident enough in anything, and I don't really expect the pass game to do well. It's mostly the game theory that's appealing about the Chargers. Like, them as a play themselves, it's a good matchup, but like they don't pass enough. They don't pass well. Justin Herbert, despite, kind of a low risk offense, 7.2 intended air yards per attempt, only a 64% catchable ball rate. So he's not really doing that good with it. He's also been terrible under pressure. Not that the Cardinals actually get pressure, only a 14% pressure rate for him, but a negative 0.8 EPA under pressure plays, seeing pressure 37% of the time. So like Herbert's been bad at pretty much everything. So again, the game theory of it makes the Chargers an appealing stack. The reality of it does not look pretty good. Brendan Rice the DMP CD or was Chark? Because I know Chark was banged up, I think. But honestly, I haven't followed them that closely, to be honest, because they haven't been material for any slate. J.K. Dobbins is about as relevant as it gets for the team for the most part. But on this slate, I certainly think trying to dig into this more would be good, but I really don't have a lean here. Projection-wise, real fast, just to go back. Chark has a 0. Rice has a 0. Foco's got a 6. So the projections right now would also support no Rice, no Chark, just Fehoko, Palmer, and McConkey. And certainly McConkey, number 1 by a margin. Under other low-owned guys here, you have Kamani Vidal under 10%. If you were to somehow hit and get leverage against J.K. Dobbins, that would be good. Still think, though, people read a little too much of Kamani Vidal having the one wheel route touchdown last week. The usage overall wasn't that great. Vidal last week, Dobbins played how many snaps? Dobbins played 57, so certainly risking running him into the ground, but for comparison's sake, Kamani Vidal played 19 snaps, and Haskins, I don't think, played a lot. Haskins played 3 snaps, so we're talking about 1/3 the snaps for Vidal. Haskins not really a factor. Vidal's usage, I think, would make you think maybe he can hit, but I think he gets higher owned than 6.5%. Even though the projection is going to suck, $4,400 salary. People have been dying to play him, Like the amount of victory laps from that one fucking touchdown last week I saw on Twitter. I think Vidal gets owned a little bit higher. Charlie Kolar, he's low owned. This low owned portion of things is not good. It's got to be a unique construction thing. Again, one thing that stood out to me about a month ago when we had one of the other doubleheader slates, we saw the optimizer. Jags were coming up everywhere. Then we got into the actual slate. What ended up winning it was a team that played no Jags. So I would say from my perspective, that's the kind of thing I'm going to look for here, especially now when we head over to the solver and look at the optimizer portion of things. But like the ownership seems efficient. The things that you would pivot to logically are not the most appealing. So that's basically, I think, the best way to sum up this look so far. Let's go to the solver next year. Of course, solver, look at the description as well if you want to use an optimizer and also some sims layered on top of that. I think it's a good tool to use if you want to have more control of your lineups, as I always talk about. If you want to just get fed good lineups quickly, Stochastic, a great tool. We'll show you more of that in a moment. But for the solver, I think if you want to have your hand on the wheel more, you want to lock in Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans and build all your teams around that for a 20 max, I think that's a good way to do that. Not that you have to make them all for the 20 max, so like you don't have to, 100% those guys. The point being, if you want to do things like that, that's the way to do it. So no settings on this, just pure projection math here. So projection-wise, we are getting, this is your optimal lineup right now, a 129.4 projection. On Lamar Jackson, James Conner, J.K. Dobbins, Chris Godwin, Zay Flowers, Ladd McConkey, Cade Otton, Simi Fehoko, and Ravens D. So 3 Chargers in here, 2 Bucks. Not a lot of Cardinals, but you're getting both RBs from the second game. That's odd to see. Okay. See, we're getting overall here. Just going to do a quick scroll through. A lot of pay down tight ends. Kate Otten, Disley. There's McBride in one. Good amount of double tight ends like we saw yesterday. Double tight end did hit yesterday, by the way, but not the way the Sims would have had you hit because it ended up being Jonnu Smith there. Colby Parkinson didn't do shit, so I still think I was fundamentally right to not play 2 tight ends on yesterday's slate. Today, though, it does feel like naturally because of the savings, you're going to get 2 tight ends a little bit more, and I feel the same way. I probably would consider throwing out 2 tight end lineups with how much they're occurring in the top projected lineups here. Guys making it into every lineup, J.K. Dobbins, Ladd McConkey. Same thing as showdowns here, right away when you see 2 players making it in naturally in all of your top 25 lineups. The logical thing to do would be to basically make it so split these guys out. J.K. Dobbins can only appear in certain lineups. Ladd McConkey can only appear in certain lineups. If you played them together, you'd be closer to the chalk. It doesn't mean these guys are bad plays, of course. Chalk happens because good plays, everybody knows who they are. So Ladd McConkey and J.K. Dobbins, probably very good plays. But if you're going to get different from the field here, projection-wise, people are going to get forced these guys a little bit more. They both are pretty cheap, have good salaries, soft matchup against the Cardinals. So harder for me to fade Dobbins and McConkey, but there's going to be a lot more ownership to Dobbins, so that's the trade-off. Thoughts on Zay Jones? I think you needed Harrison to be out, I think. Michael Wilson hasn't been crazy impressive, and it feels like he's been running more routes than he should, so he could maybe hurt him a little bit, but like I'm not sold on it, would be the best way to say that. Last week, Michael Wilson became basically the functional wide receiver 1 last week. Didn't do a lot with it. Played 64 snaps. George played 36, and Marv, I assume, played very little. Yeah, Marv played 8 before he got concussed. Yeah, I think it's possible maybe because I don't think they would need to ramp up Harrison. He's basically been practicing all week. And even though he's in the concussion protocol, I would think if he's going to take snaps away, it'd be from Michael Wilson. So you probably wouldn't want to play Zay Jones and Michael Wilson together, but I'm not sure if that's a good move. Also, guys, I didn't talk about it in the video here, but I didn't mention it last week. Members only week here on Splash Play. So we're testing out right now. We're basically a chat. To participate in chat this week, you got to be a member. Also, of course, you get the access to the VIP Discord, my data sheet, my premium videos on Friday. So our normal guys here who are not paying members, please don't feel disrespected here. I just got to try some different stuff to see if it helps the overall revenue picture. So members only week here on Splash Play. Join the channel. And of course, no matter what, you can still get the content for free. Subscribe down below. Hit the like button. Your support goes a long way for me. And let me know how you feel about it. Of course, hopefully the members here feel even more special, but I know it's kind of a push-pull. I do love our free people too, but look, if you come here every day, pay for the channel, please. Helps me out a bunch. Chris Godwin coming in a lot. Player stacks. 33% of the time you're getting Godwin and Auden. 32% of the time you're getting Dobbins, McConkey, and Fehoko. 24% of the time you're getting Dobbins, McConkey, and Disley. 20% of the time you're getting just Dobbins and McConkey. So combine this all together. So 44% of the time plus another 32 on top. So 76% of the time, you're getting at least 2 Chargers here with McConkey and Dobbins. Obviously, we know it's 100%, but like, let's work with me here. So basically, all this time here, the Sims are going to push you, or the optimizers are going to push you to adding more Chargers in. So I would think taking only 1 Charger would be the move. You could also take multiple Chargers that aren't Dobbins and McConkey, but limiting yourself to 1 Charger here, given the fact that there's more than one in every lineup, I think is usually the logical thing to do. Here's your game stacks, so combos with an opposing player. It doesn't really matter that much. Not quite the same as a showdown in how we view this. Let's go to Stochastic next. Contest generator. Got our Monday main slate. All right. We're going to do on Stochastic is build 10,000 lineups and have them compete 10,000 times. So let's see how that works out here. Of course, again, link in the description for Stochastic, 15% off. All the affiliate links, you guys joining the channel, all supports the show here, of course, because I'm just a sole proprietor here, showing you my gambling every week. And I'm pleased to be able to do it, but obviously be more pleased to do it if it made business sense. Please support the channel. The support goes along here. Of course, I'll keep doing the work no matter what, but please help make my life easier to do this every day, because doing niche YouTube content, it's not the world. Let's go to the third, going to first place. That's pretty much what every slate has been lately. Let's sim it out. Of course, it just built 10,000 lineups. It's going to have those 10,000 lineups compete 10,000 times. That's how Stochastic sims work. Solver, of course, a different thing on there. You have 500 lineups you can sim out, competing against a field of pre-created lineups. So different approaches to both tools. They both have their merits. Solver a little bit cheaper, and again, you get more control. Stochastic, if you want to know you're playing the same lineups as some of the top DFS pros out there, then that's going to help you too. Along with a lot of the field, I think it helps in that respect as well. And tomorrow, best ball review show coming up. And boy, I got a lot of content coming out this week. I got to figure out what I'm doing with Unabated as well. With NBA, gonna have some content coming out on DraftKings Network with that, and also my own channel. I guess I have to launch another channel, I think is what's gonna happen. So a lot coming up on Splash this week, guys. Hope I like doing work. So I got a lot of work. Would have loved to do the work even more if Jaden Daniels won me $1 million yesterday instead of having delicate ribs. The softest ribs in football on Jaden Daniels. A disgrace. All right, we're compiling our results here. We'll have the sim results in a moment. Of course, it's a real-time process. You can see here about how long it takes. I would say the solver, generally a little bit faster on its sims, but to me, again, just being candid, solver kind of goes down for periods a little bit more. Stochastic, usually you're looking about 2 minutes per sim process generally. Your top ROI lineup right now is of 11:22 a.m. on the East Coast. We got Lamar, Derrick Henry, J.K. Dobbins, Zay Flowers, Ladd McConkey, Rashad Bateman, Trey McBride, Will Dissly, and Ravens. So QB +3 with Baltimore, leaving 400 on the table. You can leave salary on the table on the slate as well. Probably don't want to go out of your way to do it, but you can do it if a lineup makes sense for you. Number 2 ROI lineup, Baker, James Conner, J.K. Dobbins, Godwin, Mike Evans, Sterling Shepard, K. Dot, and Trey McBride, Cardinals. Number 3 ROI lineup is a Baker quadruple stack as well. So, wow. So, QB +4, QB +4. So, the Sims want you to overstack today. This is observation number 1. Baker Mayfield, Derrick Henry, Rashad White, Chris Godwin, Ladd McConkey, Shepard, K. Dot, and Dobbins, Chargers. I will say it is really hard to play any Bucs RB tonight because the approach they're supposedly going to have is every RB that includes Sean Tucker. So Rashad White, Bucky Irving, and Sean Tucker all get a series early, and then whoever plays the best in his limited sample size 1 series, which could come down, by the way, if this is how they're actually going to do it, could come down to not even the player, could come down to the play call. Like, let's say they call 2 pass plays with Bucky Irving in, and then he doesn't do well in the 1 run play. Like, that could seal his day. Rashad White, we know, is the least efficient of them all, but the guy they probably want having the most to pass block, especially against the Ravens. But he could also not do a whole lot, and Sean Tucker can come in and do something. So really hard to play a Bucs RB and have any confidence in it. If I were to play a Bucs RB, I would almost be inclined to play that exact same lineup with the other Bucs RBs, which is not the way you want to play a DFS slate. So if you have a lean on one of the guys, great. Just keep in mind, it is sort of a pure dice roll at this point. Justin Herbert, your number 4 ROI lineup. Herbert, quadruple stacked with Derrick Henry, Connor, Chris Godwin, Ladd McConkey, Josh Palmer, Will Dissly, Dobbins, and Ravens. And number 5 is another Herbert stack. So Herbert, Henry, Dobbins, Chris Godwin, Zay Flowers, McConkey, Dissly, Josh Palmer, Ravens. All these feel the same, and they don't feel terribly unique. The Herbert stacks, I would say, better shot at being unique, but a much lower shot at winning. Jesus, I don't even know. I don't even know where to go from here, but let's look at the rest of this. Player ROI, Sterling Shepard, your top ROI, though McMillan should be back, so a little bit of risk for Shepard. I think the projections might not reflect that because McMillan, I think, is still a Q tag right now. But if McMillan comes in, Shepard could be ahead of him. McMillan could also be ahead of Shepard, so really would kind of watch this one closely as we get closer to lock. Will Dissly, 10% ROI for him, is your number 2 ROI guy. Simi Fehoko, a 1% ROI for him, and everybody else is negative. So Fehoko, Dissly, Sterling Shepard, your low-owned guys the Sims seem to think have a little more upside for ROI, the return on investment you would get. All the QB +1 stacks are supposedly going to be negative ROI. All the QB +2 stacks going to be negative ROI, and only Justin Herbert and a QB +3 as a positive ROI. So that's why we're getting QB +4, is because none of the other stacks seem to be unique enough, provide enough upside relative to a sim situation. Overall exposures, J.K. Dobbins is in 99% of lineups. So the Sims think that J.K. Dobbins is unfadable. That should be your core assumption today, is that J.K. Dobbins best play in the slate. That said, that's what everybody's going to go into today with. So how do you get unique around that? That means fading the Chargers game. That means playing Cardinals dominant builds. That means playing the pass game. That means playing Dobbins on unique constructions around him, playing some 10% guys or less. If I had to guess, this does look like more of a chop fest slate because I just don't know that QB +4 will work as well as the Sims will think, because Sims will always err on the side of more correlation than less. But that's what we're looking at right now. Chris Godwin, 65% of the lineups compared to 59% ownership, so a little bit above the field. Chris Godwin is what they want you to have. Zay Flowers, 62% compared to 53%, so a little bit more for Zay, but not quite as much as J.K. Dobbins. Dobbins, clearly the sim play of the day. Derrick Henry, they want you to get more than the field, 60% compared to 53%. Ladd McConkey, a little bit more, 53% compared to 47%. McBride, a little bit more, 51% compared to 40%. Ravens D, 49% compared to 35%. Disley, yeah, I guess playing a Ravens-Bucs, somebody gets blown out, and then you play the Chargers-Cardinals game more competitive would be one unique angle here, but none of these feel that great. Let's look at all the QBs because we only have 4 QBs, so we can do that here. And I'll hand build the lineup, and we'll try to figure this shit out. Lamar. So our top ROI Lamar lineups. Lamar, Henry, Dobbins, Zay, McConkey, Bateman, McBride, Disley, Ray. Wait a minute. Hold on. Oh, I didn't favorite the top 150, right? Unfavored it. Okay. Just want to see how many of these guys are coming up and all of them. Because, like, basically, we could see which are the top 150 ROI lineups right now. So I just want to get a read for each QB and how often they're coming up in that top 150 in this context. So Lamar coming up a good amount, as you can see, with all these favored lineups to the top 150. I think we read this one already. The second one here, Lamar, Derrick Henry, Rashad White, Zay Flowers, Ladd McConkey, Bateman, Disley, Dobbins, Ravens. Lamar, Dobbins, Rashad White, Godwin, Zay Flowers, Bateman, Disley, McConkey, Chargers. Lamar, Connor, Dobbins got. So you play a Bucs RB that's not Rashad White with Lamar. That'll get you unique. Down here, Lamar, Dobbins, Bucky, Godwin. You're getting the 2 of the better parts of the Bucs offense. Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman. So the Bateman stack in here. Trey McBride, Will Disley, Ravens. Okay. What's your Lamar teams? Boy, this is going to be a tough fucking hand build. Baker Mayfield teams. Baker Mayfield, James Conner, J.K. Dobbins, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Sterling Shepard, Cade Otton, Trey McBride, Cardinals D. Baker Mayfield, Derrick Henry, Rashad White, Chris Godwin, Ladd McConkey, Sterling Shepard, Cade Otton, Dobbins, Chargers. I got to say, I really feel like the winner today is going to be a Rashad White team that doesn't have Rashad White. Like a Rashad White team that leaves that money on the table, goes to Sean Tucker. Or Rashad White team that leaves that money on the table, goes to Bucky Irving. Going to be less money left on the table there. I feel like that's too much Rashad White coming up, given, again, it's a dice roll for who's going to actually play this week. Baker Mayfield, Dobbins, Rashad White, Godwin, Mike Evans, Bateman, Otton, McConkey, Chargers. And also worth pointing out, too, the Ravens like a tough run game matchup. So you're not only playing like an RB that's theoretically chopping up points 3 ways, or could be doing that. Could just lose the roll after one drive as well. But you're also playing a really tough defense. So it really, Bucs RBs, fade them entirely, I guess you could also do. We saw some Herbert lineups. Look at a few more. Justin Herbert, Derrick Henry, James Conner, Chris Godwin, Ladd McConkey, Josh Palmer, Will Disley, Dobbins, Ravens. Herbert, I think we read that one already. Herbert, Derrick Henry, Dobbins, Chris Godwin, Zay Flowers, McConkey, Disley, Palmer, Ravens. Just don't see how the triple hits with Herbert. Oh, no, quadruple. Quadruple is impossible for Herbert. Herbert, Derrick Henry, James Conner, Zay Flowers, Ladd McConkey, Fehoko, Trey McBride, Dobbins, Ravens. This build, I think, could work because you basically need... So Herbert has to score enough points to be a winning QB, which requires less points from McConkey, Disley, and Palmer than most. And then I guess you would just need Dobbins, Godwin, and Zay Flowers to have, like... And I guess Henry, too. Like, these guys all have unfadeable games. Then the super cheap stack gets there. So, like, these guys probably ought to score 8 to 12 points each instead, which is ugly, but I guess that's possible. These teams. Kyler teams have not come up a lot, so I'll be curious to see these. Kyler, Derrick Henry, Dobbins, Godwin, Marvin Harrison, Fehoko, McBride, Disley, Ravens. Kyler, Connor, Dobbins, Harrison, Zay Flowers, McConkey, Cade Otton, Trey McBride, Bucks. Kyler, Derrick Henry, Dobbins, Godwin, Ladd McConkey, Dortch, Trey McBride, Will Disley, Ravens. These feel like the most unique ones we've seen. Playing Harrison It's a really tough matchup against that Chargers D. But I feel like if Harrison, I mean, we know he's got 30 fantasy point upside. The salary is really tough. The projection, 11.3 fantasy points, is also pretty tough. If he were to hit, he would break the slate. Chargers play a lot of zone, 66% zone rate, negative 0.1 EPA per dropback overall, negative 0.12 EPA per pass. When they play man set 17% of the time. Harrison gets targeted a lot against man defense, 36% target per out run against man defense. I feel like Harrison and Kyler just feel like the two things that didn't come up a lot here. They have enough of a team total on them. Maybe. All right, let's try to hand build this. If you have any requests, I can go back and look at it because it is a members only chat. So I'll go back and do that if you guys want. But let's try to do a single lineup build here. All right. 35% to first again. Large contest. What do we do? So we don't have to fade Dobbins, but fading him is certainly a move. If you pay up for Connor, I feel like these projections, I just don't know how people play as much Connor as the ownership projects. They're going to have to basically hold their nose to do it. Connor, 2.8 red zone inside of touches a game, 1.2, which is at the 10-yard line. The workload's okay. Running backs against an ugly matchup that plays. Let's go Connor. And I love the pass games. What if it's just Kyler and Connor both run in 2 TDs and the pass game doesn't get there? I think that could work. So let's try that out. Check the chat. Kyler is the way. All right. Eddie agrees. Let's see if we can build this. So Kyler and Connor. Derrick Henry punching in 2 touchdowns. I don't know how that doesn't happen. Obviously, his 2 touchdown bet lines, like the probability is not going to align with me saying that. I'm sure his anytime touchdowns minus money. But Henry scoring 1 touchdown for sure. Likely scoring 2 touchdowns. Good shot at putting up 100 yards here. I'm going to go Derrick Henry for my second RB. So we have 4,800 per spot left. How do we stay unique with this? Chargers don't defend the slot terribly well. 0.24 EPA per target there. So Dort should benefit a little bit from that. All right, let's see if we can do something with Dortch. Dortch here, 4,100 will save us a little bit of money. I think Ladd's still a good play. We're not going to play Dobbins in this lineup, so let's play Ladd here. Try to concentrate the pass game a little bit. Honestly, might be a Vidal in the flex spot. Tight ends. Let me look at tight end. Disley catching a TD instead of it being a Dobbins TD. Is that possible? I think it is. Let's go Disley tight end. So we're not stacking Herbert. We're going Kyler instead. I think that'll make us unique. We definitely need some Bucks pieces here, but the price tag for these guys is going to be pretty rough. I would like to get Godwin in, I think. Oh, man. All right, you put Godwin in. You got 4,850 left. Let's look at defenses. Who'd be the defense who deflects passes the most out of all these guys? Tampa Bay. 7.8% pass deflection rate on short throws. 5% on deep throws. Ravens, 8.4% on short throws. 12% on deep throws. All right, let's try Ravens D. Baker's going to drop back a lot. Ravens are around the ball. Them getting a turnover here is not a crazy thing at all. And we do have Derrick Henry, so we're playing less guys from the first game, which makes strategic sense. If not, we're not playing the best players, I would say. Zay Flowers. I think anybody who builds this kind of lineup would probably put Zay Flowers in, leaving 100 on the table. They want to try to get leverage against him somehow. I mean, Zay just gets the best work overall. Let's put it in with Zay. I feel like maybe we got unique enough here. So the team that I'm going to put in and sim out right now, hand-built team, Kyler, James Conner, Derrick Henry, Greg Dortch. So a little bit of stack with Kyler, but not a lot. Ladd McConkey, Chris Godwin, Will Disley, Zay Flowers, Ravens D. Honestly, feel like I could take Dortch out. Maybe take Dortch out and go to McBride in the flex. Or Harrison, I guess. All right, negative 8% ROI, which honestly for this kind of slate is not the worst. Let's take out Dortch. Let's put in Harrison. So we're saying Kyler goes kind of nuts here. McMillan catching one, I think is possible. I just worry that Shepard might have passed up McMillan. Let's try this with McMillan. So we swap to Kyler, Connor, Derrick Henry, Marvin Harrison, Ladd McConkey, Chris Godwin, Will Dissly, and Jalen McMillan. So playing two receivers against our defense, not always the most logical thing, but oh, that got a lot worse. Okay. They don't want us to play Harrison. Seems to, I mean, granted, an awful projection for Harrison, so I do get why that would be. Let's see if we can put in Trey McBride. Or Trey McBride, and that leaves us 5,300 at receiver. I don't know that we'd want to double stack Michael Wilson. Let's go Bateman. Big play, Rashad Bateman. Just takes one. Would like to build a positive ROI lineup, but this isn't it. I'm giving up. I'm going to throw in the towel. We'll do our 3 ways to get unique on the slate. But I hope this video added value. If it did, guys, please do hit that like button and subscribe to support me a bunch here. Of course, showing the channel to new people. We're not far off here. We're not that far from the positive, but these are not as positive as some of the 5% ROI ones. The reality, though, is like on a short slate, some of these top lineups that I showed you a few minutes ago, those are going to get played a lot. So I think on this slate, having ones that win a little bit but are slightly negative ROI, I don't think it's a bad move either. It's just about building something unique. So this one here with Kyler, Connor, Derrick Henry, Bateman, Ladd McConkey, Chris Godwin, Will Dissly, Trey McBride, Ravens D. I think I like the first version of the lineup the most, but I think building here, trying to capture rushing touchdowns against the Chargers makes sense to me. McBride kind of ruins that thesis a little bit, so that's the tough part. There's some ways to get unique here. The issue, though, is really if you're running the Sims, then you're going to end up with some negative ROI lineups if you are just trying to build something too unique. There we go, guys. That's all that. So 3 takeaways to build unique lineups on this one. Number 1 would be if you fade J.K. Dobbins, that's it. Like you're getting away from a large chunk of the field. My guess would be about 80% of the field is going to be playing J.K. Dobbins tonight. Ownership projection is going to be closer to 75%, but somewhere in that range. So Dobbins is going to be everywhere. Dobbins projects really well. I would say probably a little bit too well, but the workload's been great for him. So that's it. If you fade Dobbins today, Cardinals boat race, Dobbins doesn't get there. Dobbins gets hurt. Those are the ways you get paid out there. So there's a lot of good ways. And as we saw yesterday, the Jaden Daniels chalk, sometimes a guy just gets hurt and it fucks up the entire slate. So that's unfortunately how it goes. And on a 2-game slate, I think playing some lines without Dobbins is going to be a wise move. Number 2 way to get unique today. The Sims want you to overstack. I don't know that actually gets you unique. I think the number 2 way to get unique would be, again, so we talked about Dobbins. I think if you play Dobbins, I would fade Ladd McConkey. Like there's too many lineups that we saw on the solver there, just the projections driving people to 2 Chargers in lineups, 3 Chargers in lineups. This is not an explosive offense. It's not an offense you expect to go off. So certainly a soft match against Arizona. Arizona's defense, the worst in the slate, even though both the Bucs D, the Ravens D should have a pass game production. Cardinals defense is bad against everything this year. So get the logic why Chargers are coming in, but knowing how that offense goes, knowing too that like one big play takes away a lot of the little plays in between for guys like McConkey and Dobbins. I think just doing something different with the Chargers besides just playing Dobbins and McConkey, who come up at 100% of lineups based on the projection. That's probably going to be a wise move for today. So those guys, great plays relative to projection, but on a slate where you see them coming up in every lineup there without any sort of boosts or anything on correlation. On the solver, that means you probably should just play one of those guys if you can. Last way to get unique here. I just think there wasn't enough Derrick Henry coming up. The ownership seems like it'll push towards Derrick Henry a little bit more. But Derrick Henry, tough price tag. Still think he's the best RB on the slate by a pretty wide margin, even accounting for salary. Honestly, most of the teams today, I think, will include Dobbins, obviously. But I would say a good amount will be Henry and Dobbins. So if you play Henry and Dobbins, or you like just maybe don't do that. Maybe add another RB on top. But I think for Henry, playing him alone, playing him without Dobbins, I'm just trying to say, like, he beats out Dobbins, somebody else at a cheaper price tag or just a different price tag gets close to Dobbins. I think that's the way to try to attack RB, just given how much Dobbins was going to be. Doesn't mean Dobbins is a bad play. I expect Dobbins to do fairly well today, but when you account for just the risk profile, his injury history as well, in fact, the workload's getting like a little too high for a guy with a storied history of injuries. Like, I think just trying to do something different there would be the move. And Derrick Henry over Dobbins, I think, would be the way to do that. But that's it for today, guys. Again, please support the show. Links in the description for all the affiliate stuff, including Stochastic, 15% off. And if you also want to use your NBA 50-cent for a week deal, you can still use a promo code on that so I get credit for it when you switch to a regular membership. So support the show. Affiliate links if you can. Stochastic, 15% off. The only 15% off you'll get for the NFL data right now. Solver, no discount, but again, a great tool as well. The affiliate link in the description supports the show, so please do that. Your engagements go a long way. Underdog, $1,000 in bonus cash. For some reason, you follow me for DFS and not for basketball content. Deposit an Underdog. It's the best bonus cash deal you find in the business. Whereas you can play the pick'ems, the battle royales are now incredible amounts of first place. It's 50K. So if you're not playing Underdog, you're doing yourself a service. Play on there too. Especially relative to how many people, people win a lot more on Underdog than they do on DraftKings. It might feel like people win more on DraftKings, but on Underdog, tell you what, you should go to that depositing Discord. You'll see people that have won within the last few weeks on just various tournaments out there. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at SplashPlayPod. Thank you to all the paying members. Again, it's members only week here on the channel. So if you want to be in the chat, and it's possible this might be a permanent setting, guys. So really, like, if you like the show, if you appreciate the content, please join down below so I just know what this baseline is of people that view this content as like must have. And if you want to be in the chat this week, you could also leave me a comment for free. Of course, I'll reply no matter what, as I always do. But trying to figure out a way to make this channel just make a little bit more money so my equation makes sense now, the stuff I'm doing for NBA. So that's the goal here. No offense to our free guys, but if you're a regular here and you're not a paying member, please support the show. That's all I ask. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at SplashPlayPod. Gamble responsibly, even though it's always money time. And of course, I'll be back tomorrow with you guys for the Best Ball Review Show, the most depressing Best Ball Review Show in the world, coming up tomorrow. So, barring something weird today, I don't know what would happen that would make my lineups better today, but maybe something will help today because I think I'm under like $600 coming back in Best Ball Mania. I'm not feeling good about it after Jaden shit the bed. So we'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully, good luck on this slate. See you guys then. Enjoy your days. Good luck. Bye-bye.